This is the shocking story of Ana Santos, a young Filipina bride whose dream wedding turned into a nightmare in Dubai. On her wedding night, tragedy struck when her husband Kareem Al Fahad discovered a secret that would cost Ana her life. Stay with us as we uncover every detail of this horrifying case. And make sure to subscribe to our channel and stay active so you never miss a story like this. Ana Santos had always dreamed of a better life. Growing up in a small town in the Philippines, she watched her mother work tirelessly to raise her and her two siblings after their father left. At 23, she made the difficult decision to leave home and work abroad. Dubai seemed like a place full of opportunity, and she quickly found a job as a hotel receptionist. Life in the city wasn't easy. She shared a cramped apartment with 3 other women and sent most of her salary back home. But Ana stayed optimistic. She was known for her warmth and her ability to make anyone feel at ease. It was at the hotel where she first met Kareem Al Fahad. He was staying for a business conference, always polite but reserved, and Ana noticed his calm confidence. Over time, Kareem became a regular guest whenever he was in Dubai. Their casual greetings slowly turned into longer conversations, and Kareem began leaving flowers at the reception desk for her. When he eventually asked her out, Ana hesitated. She knew relationships could be complicated, especially in a country where cultural norms were different from her own, but Kareem was patient and persistent. Their courtship was private and simple, with quiet dinners and late-night phone calls. Kareem's family was conservative, but he assured Ana that they accepted her. To Ana, this relationship was not just about romance. It was a chance to have stability, a future where she wouldn't have to struggle. By the time Kareem proposed, she felt she had made the right choice. Everything seemed perfect, like the beginning of a beautiful new chapter in her life. Their wedding day was one Ana had been secretly planning in her heart for years. She wanted it to be intimate, not extravagant, something that felt genuine and full of meaning. Kareem rented a private rooftop venue overlooking Dubai's glittering skyline, and as the sun set, the city lights began to glow like stars. Ana wore a simple but elegant white dress she had chosen months before. She couldn't stop smiling as she walked into the ceremony, and for a moment, everything felt magical. Guests described the atmosphere as peaceful and full of joy, with soft music playing and a small table set with traditional sweets. The ceremony itself was brief but emotional. Kareem stood tall and dignified beside her, his expression calm but proud. Friends who attended later said they looked like a perfect match, as if their lives were about to blend seamlessly together. After exchanging vows, the couple posed for photographs, holding hands and looking into each other's eyes with quiet excitement. Dinner was served under the open sky, and guests toasted to their future. Laughter and conversations filled the air as Ana's co-workers and Kareem's relatives mingled, sharing food and stories. It was the kind of wedding that felt warm rather than overwhelming, with just enough guests to make the moment special without becoming crowded. When the night came to a close, the couple left together in Kareem's car, waving goodbye as their friends cheered. They drove to their new apartment in Dubai Marina, a modern space Kareem had chosen as their first home. No one could have imagined that this happy celebration would end in tragedy just hours later. In the hours after the wedding, the apartment that had been filled with flowers and gifts became the scene of a nightmare. Investigators later reconstructed the events based on forensic evidence, and what they found was grim. The living room showed signs of a brief struggle. A chair had been overturned, a vase shattered on the floor. The trail led to the bedroom, where the real violence took place. There were bloodstains on the carpet and marks on the wall, evidence of a fight that had escalated quickly and violently. Neighbors in the building reported hearing unusual noises shortly after midnight. One described hearing a loud crash followed by what sounded like heavy footsteps and a muffled cry. No one knocked on the door or called security, assuming it was just a domestic argument that would pass. When Ana failed to show up for a scheduled brunch with friends the next morning, they became worried. Repeated calls to her phone went unanswered. It was Kareem's cousin who eventually went to check on the couple later that morning. Using a spare key, he entered the apartment and discovered the horrifying scene. Ana was lying on the bedroom floor, motionless, with severe head trauma. The bed sheets were soaked in blood, and the room was in disarray, suggesting a violent confrontation. Kareem was sitting in the corner, silent and staring at the floor. Authorities were called immediately, and paramedics confirmed what everyone feared. Anna was dead. What had begun as a night of celebration had turned into one of the most shocking cases the neighborhood had ever witnessed. When police arrived, Kareem did not resist arrest. He was calm, almost detached, as if he had already accepted what had happened. At the police station, investigators began piecing together the timeline of the night and pressed Kareem for answers. After several hours, he gave a statement that would stun the officers. He admitted that during their wedding night, he learned Anna was not a virgin, something he claimed she had hidden from him throughout their relationship. His words were later documented in the case file, describing how he felt betrayed, humiliated, and consumed by anger in that moment. Investigators were careful to corroborate his claims, interviewing friends and colleagues to understand the couple's dynamic. They found no history of abuse or public arguments between them. Their relationship appeared healthy from the outside, which made the crime even more shocking. Kareem's confession was not a justification but an insight into his state of mind. He claimed he did not plan to harm her, insisting it was a sudden outburst of rage that spiraled out of control. News of the confession spread quickly through Dubai's local media, sparking debate on social platforms. Some expressed outrage, arguing that nothing could justify the murder, while others pointed to cultural pressures that may have fueled his reaction. Authorities emphasized that, regardless of motive, the act was a serious crime under UAE law. This revelation turned the case into a national conversation, and what had initially been seen as a private domestic tragedy became a public story that questioned issues of morality, trust, and justice in relationships. Detectives worked meticulously to gather every piece of evidence that could explain what happened that night. Crime scene photographs showed a violent struggle, with blood spatter patterns that helped forensic experts determine the sequence of events. The broken lamp on the floor was tested and confirmed to have traces of Anna's blood and hair, making it the primary weapon. Fingerprints matching Kareem's were found on the base of the lamp, leaving little doubt about who had used it. Building security footage was reviewed frame by frame. The cameras captured Anna and Kareem arriving together after the wedding reception, smiling as they entered the lobby. After that, no one was seen leaving or entering the apartment until Kareem's cousin arrived the following morning. This ruled out the possibility of a third-party intruder. Investigators also examined Anna's phone, which revealed nothing unusual, no messages or calls that would have hinted at conflict or danger. Friends were interviewed, and all described Anna as excited and happy about the marriage. The lack of warning signs made the case even more tragic and chilling. Forensic pathologists later confirmed that Anna died from blunt force trauma to the head, consistent with the blows from the lamp. The timeline suggested the attack lasted only a few minutes, but was extremely violent. The evidence painted a clear picture for prosecutors. This was not an accident, nor could it be explained away as self-defense. Everything pointed to a sudden, lethal outburst that ended Anna's life. With the case building against Kareem, authorities prepared to move forward with formal charges and take the case to trial. When the case went to trial, the courtroom was filled with reporters, legal experts, and members of the public eager to witness the proceedings. Kareem appeared in court wearing a simple white kandura, his face expressionless as the charges were read. Prosecutors laid out the evidence in meticulous detail: the blood analysis, fingerprints, security footage, and forensic reports, creating a timeline that left little room for doubt. They argued that Kareem acted deliberately, and that Anna's death was the result of an uncontrolled but intentional act of violence. The defense took a different approach, focusing on Kareem's mental state at the time of the crime. They claimed he had acted under extreme emotional distress, triggered by a discovery that shattered his expectations on the most important night of his life. His lawyers argued that cultural and personal pressures played a role, and that this was not a premeditated murder, but a tragic crime of passion. Each session was tense and closely followed by the media. Anna's friends sat quietly in the courtroom, holding photos of her and wearing black to honor her memory. The testimony from forensic experts was especially powerful, with detailed descriptions of the injuries, leaving many in the courtroom visibly shaken. As the trial progressed, public opinion became divided. Some sympathized with Kareem's emotional turmoil, while others insisted that no amount of anger or disappointment could excuse such brutality. The case had grown beyond a single act of violence. It had become a discussion about culture, justice, and the value of human life. Everyone waited anxiously for the court's decision, knowing it would set a precedent. The day of the verdict arrived under heavy security. Journalists crowded outside the courthouse, broadcasting updates live as the nation waited for the outcome. Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere was tense and silent. Kareem stood before the judge, his hands clasped in front of him, showing little emotion. The judge carefully read through the ruling, outlining the evidence that had been presented during the trial and the arguments made by both sides. The court acknowledged that Kareem acted under strong emotional distress, but emphasized that his actions were still intentional and resulted in the loss of a human life. The judge stated that cultural or personal expectations could never justify murder. In the end, the verdict was clear. Kareem was found guilty of murder and sentenced to life imprisonment. The decision was met with a mixture of relief and sorrow. Anna's friends, seated in the front row, quietly wept, holding each other as the sentence was delivered. Reporters outside immediately relayed the news, and within hours, the verdict was trending on social media across the UAE and the Philippines. Legal experts called it a landmark case, noting that it reinforced the seriousness with which domestic violence and honor-related crimes are treated under UAE law. For Anna's family, the verdict brought some measure of closure, though it could never erase their grief. Kareem was led away in handcuffs, his future decided, while the courtroom slowly emptied. The long legal battle was finally over, leaving behind a case that would be remembered for years as one of Dubai's most shocking and emotionally charged trials. After the verdict, Anna's body was flown back to the Philippines for burial. Her family gathered in their small hometown to receive her remains, a moment that was both heartbreaking and surreal. Neighbors came to pay their respects, leaving flowers and candles outside the Santos family home. The funeral was simple but emotional, with friends and relatives sharing memories of Anna's kindness and determination. Many in the community struggled to understand how a woman who left to build a better life had returned in such tragic circumstances. In Dubai, the apartment where the murder took place remained sealed for weeks while authorities completed their final investigations. Residents of the building spoke about how unsettling it was to walk past the door, knowing what had happened inside. Some tenants even moved out, saying they no longer felt comfortable living there. The case left a deep mark on the neighborhood, serving as a grim reminder of how quickly lives could change. Anna's colleagues from the hotel organized a memorial service in her honor, lighting candles and placing a framed photo of her at the reception desk where she once worked. Management announced they would create a small scholarship fund in her name to help other Filipino workers in Dubai. The story continued to receive media coverage for weeks, with journalists exploring themes of cultural pressure, domestic violence, and the experiences of migrant workers. For many, Anna became a symbol of resilience and vulnerability at the same time, a young woman whose dreams were cut short, but whose story shed light on issues that were often hidden from public discussion. Anna's story continued to resonate long after the trial ended, leaving a lasting impact on both communities in Dubai and the Philippines. Discussions about her case spread across social media, news outlets, and forums, sparking debates about the dangers of cultural expectations, domestic violence, and the vulnerabilities faced by women working abroad. For some, her story became a cautionary tale, a reminder that appearances of happiness and stability can mask underlying tensions. The apartment where the crime occurred was eventually rented to new tenants, but neighbors said the memory of that night lingered. The building management added additional security measures after the case, concerned about residents' safety and the notoriety the incident had brought to the area. Friends who had attended the wedding often reflected on how normal everything seemed just hours before the tragedy, highlighting the unpredictability of human behavior and the hidden pressures people carry. In the Philippines, Anna's family became advocates for awareness about the risks faced by women working overseas. They shared her story publicly to caution others, emphasizing the importance of safety, independence, and understanding cultural differences in relationships. Anna's memory was honored in community events and small campaigns focused on supporting migrant workers, especially young women seeking better opportunities abroad. Legal scholars and journalists continued to reference the case, examining how cultural beliefs can intersect with personal emotions to result in tragic outcomes. Many saw the verdict as a clear statement that no act of anger, regardless of motive, could excuse violence. Anna's life, though tragically short, left a mark that prompted reflection, education, and discussions aimed at preventing similar tragedies. Her story remains a stark reminder that even the happiest beginnings can turn to heartbreak, and that vigilance, respect, and awareness are essential in any